Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the 2024 fall season of Artists Talk on Art panels. It's Monday, October 21st, 2024, 7 p.m. Eastern. I am Maria Paz, the new Director of Programming of Artists Talks on Art. As a painter, art curator, and documentary filmmaker with a passion for interdisciplinary exploration, my work unites Eastern, Western, Northern, and Southern cultures through symbolism and abstraction, reflecting our globalized era. For 50 years, Artists Talk on Art has been the premier forum for visual artists, holding the distinction of being the longest-running panel series in art history. ATOA's mission is to provide a platform for artists to share their thoughts and opinions, fostering critical dialogue on issues relevant to the contemporary art world and reflecting on historical contexts. Many of the more recent Zoom recordings may be viewed on our YouTube channel. The rest of our 1,200 plus recordings resides at Archives of American Art of the Smithsonian Institution, where is their biggest collection of audio and video. Please hold your questions or comments until the end of the dialogue. Tonight's panel is Panography. NYU Gallatin professor Lawrence Wheatman moderates a panel with Susan Bowen and Naphtali Visser, will show and discuss their digital panographic photographs. Introducing Lawrence Wheatman. The photographic experience came early to teacher Lawrence Wheatman. He spent many evenings with his father in a makeshift kitchen darkroom. One extraordinary project was his Cockrat Art, a 7,000 square foot performance coffee house across from the bitter end of Bleecker Street in Greenwich Village. The art traversed new ground in combining expressions as diverse as rock, folk, country, bluegrass, blues, ballet, stand-up comedy, and interactive light sculpture in the same artistic space. Wheatman then performed with a number of bands of diverse musical genres in New York and Europe, and was produced by the late Felix Papalardi, who also produced Cream, Eric Clapton, Leslie West, and more. Wheatman also does photo work in the more commercial aspects of the craft, including many print covers, and was a teacher of photography artist development at New York University between 1989 and 2023. Join us now as we delve into the panographic world of these three amazing photographers. Thank you so much.
And thank you. And I'm saying hello, and you're in the picture in case you don't want to be.
Okay, look in the other, watch in the other room.
Okay. I wasn't going to let her sit there and then find out that I let her sit there in the picture. She said she didn't want to be in it. But I miss you already. In any case, we are here, and what we're going to be talking about. First of all, I have to say the Gallatin, that's not actually true. I mean, I was at what became Gallatin back before it became Gallatin for I think 3 years or 3 semesters. But I spent, and I was also at Stern for a while, but most of my time there was at the School of Professional Studies. So just to correct the record, I don't want anybody thinking that, whatever, looking for me there and not finding me. Well, I'm not there anymore anyway. But what we're talking about today is panography, which I obviously picked that word because it's, people think, something else. And then so it gets attention. It just seemed like the right thing. It seems accurate because we're making panographs. And what the panograph is, well, my first inspiration for the panograph was when I inherited my dad's Pen S with the fast lens, the f2.8 lens. That's a very small, very, very, very high quality 35 millimeter camera that shot cine frames. So that's the frame size that was originally intended for 35 millimeter film when it was invented, because it was invented for motion picture film. And yeah, anyway, so some companies said, hey, why not put it in a small camera? especially as it was getting better all the time. Excuse me. Anyway, so this camera did astonishing stuff, and then at some point it got old, and I didn't notice it at first. But when I was advancing the film, I was getting past the end of the the count on the thing of what's going on. And it turned out it was only advancing like half the way, quarter of the way, 3/4 of the way. And so I had long strips of negatives, and they blew my mind. And I used this camera for a while. I shot several black and white rolls of film with it. And then at some point, I saw the work of Susan Bowen, who was doing sort of the same thing, but instead using a Holga camera, which is, I describe it as a $20 camera that's overpriced, and it's wonderful. And doing the same sort of things, but in color. I said, oh, I got to do that in color. And I never got around to it until I accidentally got into it. And I'll talk more about that later on. I can say that it uses the pano mode on an iPhone. I'm sure it does work very well with other cameras that have that kind of mode. And in case you don't know what that is, it's where you're literally panning the camera and you wind up with some very, very interesting things, even when you're doing it at the way you're supposed to do it, which is smooth and even, and you get a marvelous panorama, and you wind up with a huge image file, so that you can make giant prints out of these when they're done carefully. But when you're not doing them carefully, or especially when you're fooling around just for the fun of it, is when you get these amazing accidental mistakes or intentional mistakes. And especially once you start getting into a flow of doing the camera this way or going that way or going this way, or whatever you're doing, or spinning it around, or even especially when you're shooting something that's moving, but you're essentially keeping still. Oh my God. And you'll be seeing that with Naf and myself. And you'll be seeing the thing that inspired the work that inspired me to do this work from Susan, who we're going to hear right now. Are you ready, Susan? Did I do enough of an introduction?
Mute. Share. Click on this.
Beautiful. I see it.
Are we good?
I'm moving.
All right. I'm Susan Bowen. It was actually 20 years ago that I was doing this kind of work with the Holga. But I refer to them as overlapping exposure panoramas. And I didn't even know when Lawrence brought up the panography term. I thought you were just making it up, but I looked it up and it's an actual thing. Anyway, I didn't mean to advance yet. Oops, sorry.
I didn't know that. Thank you.
Shit, I'm sorry. Because earlier on I had repetitive strain injuries with my arms. I have an automatic clicking software, so I just turned it off. That's why it was going crazy. Anyway, here are some examples of my work, just to give you an idea of what we're talking about. So these are shot on film with a Holga, which is a plastic camera made in China. I'm not even sure who's making it now. It died out and then it came back. So I don't know, but originally it was made in China for Chinese people before 35mm became a thing. So it kind of died out in China, but it got taken over as a kind of cult thing globally. So it uses medium format film, which is much bigger than 35mm. So you can make really big prints from it. It has no controls. It's got one f-stop, one shutter speed. So usually you're shooting in sunny situations, and you just shoot freely. You don't think about what you're doing. So if I get rid of this.
I love the spirit.
Seeing the peoples covering up the words I have over here. So for the photographers out there, I have a document that you can download to learn more, but the key thing is to take out a plastic piece that comes with the camera, which allows the images to blend better. The camera's known for light leaks, but you can avoid that, and I'll show you how to do that. The overlaps happen by not advancing the film all the way, which is what Lawrence was talking about. The camera has a hot shoe, so you can use flash. It has a bulb mode, so you can do long exposures. And the rest I already said. So if you're interested in learning more, go to this document, tinyurl.com/Olga suggestions. I know many of you out there are not photographers. I'm going to show these chronologically. This all grew out of a 4-week class at the new school that I took right after 9/11, like a couple months later. This particular roll was one of the first roll. It may have been the first roll I shot. So it was on 42nd Street, and most of what you're looking at here is not around anymore, except for the one building, real building. And over in the right lower corner, you see what light leaks look like, which some people like to keep. I did some work in black and white. This was the same day, probably minutes apart from the other one. So this is all on one piece of film. You know, it comes out however it comes out. I don't, you know, people ask me how much do you turn the knob and all that. I just turn it an arbitrary amount. I don't think about that. And I shoot off the end of the roll. I don't even pay attention to when the roll ends. So it's a very right brain kind of thing. I did a lot of shooting of crowd situations with the Holga, because it's the one f-stop, one shutter speed. You have no telephoto lens or anything like that. To shoot people, you have to be, you know, right in the middle of the action. So this was a street fair in Chelsea. People like this one. It's called Reflections to Go. It's reflections in a Volkswagen, curves of the Volkswagen. I call this graffiti. It's actually not graffiti. It was an art installation with writing on the glass. I can't tell you what the word said, but the overlap makes it look like graffiti. So that's what I called it. So gay pride parade. So you have to be in the parade, you know, running around in between the people. There's no way to use a Holga from the sidelines. You have to be like in the action and being obnoxious a good deal of the time. I also did protest marches, the same kind of thing. This was when George Bush was president. This is a detail of that same image. So for me, working on the images, you know, on the computer, really blown up. So okay, I haven't said. So I shoot these are shot on film and then they're scanned with a flatbed scanner that scans, that has a light in the lid. So anyway, I'm shooting on film, but I'm working on the image and printing digitally. So blowing these up myself when I'm working on them, I'd like, oh, I know that person. So it was fun to find people I know in the pictures. And sometimes you see the same person like repeated. This is another protest march picture. So I started going to portfolio review events, one in Santa Fe. While I was there, I took this picture of a skateboard park, and people tend to think this is one of my better ones. Coming out of the portfolio review events was a lot of people telling me you got to do these things big. So that led me into thinking about public art. This particular one was small scale public art, was trying to get the cards at the top of the sub when you're inside the subway card, the cards that are, mounted there. So anyway, this was a submission for that, which I didn't get. So Photo Fest is another big portfolio review thing. So I was in Houston when I shot this picture. And most people think it's Coney Island, and I'd probably sell a lot more if it was Coney Island.
I have to say, I've not come across this one nor the last. Some of these I haven't seen, or at least haven't seen for a long time. This one in particular.
Okay.
It's
So
taken-
they're all on my website. All right, so the next public art thing that I went after was for University of Northern Iowa dining hall. I forget what it was, 4 or 8 panels that was supposed to go in the dining hall. So, I'd fly out to the Midwest, rent a car, and then just drive around back roads and just find whatever I find. So this one I particularly like. To me, it has a WPA kind of feel to it. It's grain elevators in some town in Iowa. These things are plastic tubing on the ground and some construction site. So, I never know what I'm going to end up with. But anyway, I like this one too. Farm equipment silhouetted against the sky. So this was the proposal. I was one of 3 finalists, but I did not get that commission. So the next one was for an airport in Indiana, around upper mezzanine. I don't know exactly what it was, but anyway, so this time I drove to Indiana and did the same thing, roamed around. So people say this reminds them of Cubism. It's just how it happened to turn out. It was just an arbitrary feed supply place.
Sure, I'm sure Picasso would love this.
I was also intrigued about in Indianapolis, there's this power plant plopped right in the middle of the city, which seems really odd to me. it's a thermal energy plant, so I believe all the smoke is steam. But anyway, it was very appealing photographically and strange where it was located. And this is a close-up of that. So this was the proposal for this round, what they call it, civic, I don't know what they call it. So I participated in some studio tours in Brooklyn when I lived in Brooklyn. The reason I'm showing this picture is so you get an idea of what my standard size was. I mean, I did make them bigger, but typically I would sell them this size. And they also lend themselves well to being stacked. I mean, I would normally stack this many, but a stack of 4 looks nice, or just 2. The long proportions are awkward in all senses. Everything has to be custom, and just how you present them is a little different too. So if you can see above my head, this image is on the wall.
And
So
that does look
next
like a big print. Was that 6 feet or so?
10 feet, the
Wow.
one I have behind me,
Yeah.
it's
Quite a-
16 inches high by 10 feet. So I went to Las Vegas for, again, the public art project, which was a bus wrap. I'll show you a picture at the end, if you even know what a bus wrap is. But this was the old part of Las Vegas, which is they've built a mall kind of thing around it. So it was shooting in dim lighting and shooting directly into light fixtures, you know, with a camera that you have no controls with. So I didn't have high hopes for this, but it turned out really good. You can do this thing called pushing of the film, which I guess is developing it longer. I don't know. I never developed these myself, and then worked them a lot in Photoshop. So occasionally, usually what I'm showing you is a half of a roll of medium format film, but occasionally the whole roll would be good. So this was one. If you see that wraps around, this lady on the top is on the bottom. So put together, that's a pretty long image.
Oh.
So this is the bus wrap. I didn't get it, but I have it framed and I like it. And moving on, I started taking pictures in Gleason's gym in Dumbo, Brooklyn, which I assume is still there. Haven't been there lately. So again, this was shooting in interior situations, so using flash and all that. So not typical Holga stuff. And this is, you know, one way of presenting them is stacked like this on a single piece of paper.
Wow. I gotta say, I'm loving this. The idea of using flash that so dramatically changes everything about it.
Yeah,
and
well, it lets you do things that you wouldn't think you'd be able to do with the silly Holga. Well, wait until, I don't know, pretty soon there'll be one that's even more. Okay, so this led to an exhibit in Dumbo. For some reason, I decided to build this round thing that had the images on the outside and the images on the inside and around the edge of the room. And the show was called In the Ring, which has kind of a double meaning there. But anyway, that was a lot of fun.
Wow, where is this piece now?
Oh, it got tossed.
Yeah.
I kept it for when I lived in Brooklyn, I had a garage and it was kept in the garage. And when I moved to Manhattan, it was just like,
Sorry to hear.
So anyway, this is the one I was referring to, that, you know, this is totally at night with flash. So, you know, a lot of pushing of the film and then a lot of work in Photoshop. And this is 4 of them stacked. So the next public art project, which I did get the commission for this one. This was my first commission. Was for the Department of Transportation in St. Cloud, Minnesota. So in this case, I flew out and they drove me around to different sites that were relevant to them. So just by some bizarre chance, you know, this bridge the structure was made and everything, but the roadway hadn't been put on yet. So it was like a wonderful find. I was really excited when I was like jumping around taking pictures. So I would shoot really fast. For all of these, I shoot fast. So because it was for them, you know, I shot pictures of their equipment. And this was another roll that worked the whole length. So in the bottom left, you see the long version.
Wow.
So these were 4 2-foot-high murals made out of digital high pressure laminate, which is the same as Formica. It's the same technology as Formica. And it's mostly used for like signage in parks and stuff. You know, when you stop and then you read a little thing and there's a picture. So it can be used outdoors, and you know, it can be touched and all that stuff. Public art with photography is hard because people are going to touch it. You know, you got to come up with a material that can withstand that. So this is more pictures. You see the long orange truck one at the top. So then I came back and tried to do the same thing I did in Las Vegas, in New York. So this was at dusk, shooting into light fixtures. And it too turned out as a full roll worked. So this wraps around, could be one long piece. Another one, and for this one, and some other ones, I rode around in those double-decker tourist things on the top, you know. So, you know, they're doing the old, oh, where are you from? You know, so I'm like, shut up, I'm here to take pictures. So this is a detail of that. So this was an exhibit I was in, obviously. I'm partially showing it because it was really hard to come up with ways to mount these that didn't cost a lot of money, especially if it's just for, you know, a single show. So the images are sandwiched between plastic materials with holes and rivets to hold it together. So in theory, you could swap out and use them again with different images. Coney Island. Also Coney Island. And again, we're getting a dusk. World's Fair Unisphere. If any of you don't live in New York, I think it's from the World's Fair 1964, I think.
You're correct.
I came as a child. I didn't grow up here, but we came to the World's Fair. I'm revealing my age. The other public art project that I did get was for a school in New Haven, Connecticut. You know, I got the commission based on my style of doing things, but what they wanted was a collage of, you know, existing historical photographs commemorating the labor movement in New Haven. Like there used to be a lot of factories there, and now there's, you know, Yale, so unions are a big thing there. So that was the topic. And this is installation shots. So it was 5'3" high, 48 feet long. So those panels from the previous thing, they didn't do such a good job the first time around. So I had to go out to Seattle, which is where they were being made. So while I was there, I snuck into the cement plant. It was on a Sunday. And it's the kind of thing that's not fenced in. So I just, you know, took as many pictures as I could before they threw me out. I was featured in a couple of magazines. This is Photo Techniques. I'm not sure, are they still around? I don't know. And Light Leaks. I know they're not around unless they were brought back. That was specifically for plastic camera type photography. I also had 2 spreads in Michelle Bates' book, Plastic Cameras, Toying with Creativity. So Michelle Bates is kind of a big Holga person.
Since you're bringing her up, we also should give credit to Sandra Carrion, because she's did the whole
Crappy camera.
crappy camera, which then became essentially worldwide, and probably put up the whole back, and the Diana as well. And I just wanted to let you know we're on a time thing, so if you can wrap
This is
up.
I'm at the end.
Oh, very good.
So more recently, this is on Instagram. It's a page called The Daily Holga. So for 7 days in a row, they featured my work, and it was hard to figure out how to present these long images on, you know, the squares of Instagram. So this is what we did. This is my box of Holgas with a few Dianas thrown in. But you can't use the Dianas for this technique. So again, this is the piece you have to throw away if you want to do this. And these are the 2 places to tape if you want to not have light leaks.
Yeah.
And that's it. So that's my website, Instagram, Vero, and the link where you can learn more about Holga stuff. Okay, I'm done. So,
Fantastic, Susan. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Does anybody have questions for Susan?
I have one question.
Okay.
How do you meter so amazingly if there's no settings on that camera? And
You
like,
don't meter.
like knowing how far you have to advance each time you're going to capture. It's amazing how you've had
So
have that
if
so figured
if
out.
the many photographers that think like that, the whole is not for you.
Yeah, yeah, that's
There's
what I
no
mean.
metering, you know,
That's what I can.
you
That's what I
turn
can't
it,
fathom how you could
any,
accomplish what you did.
you turn it any old amount and you just, you know, it's all about chance.
Wow,
Yeah.
In fact,
very impressive.
what you're going to see, Jonathan, with NAF's work and with my work is the same sort of thing. It's the spirit that I think that you bring to the pictures that brings out this giddiness that's inside them, and I just love doing that kind of work. And it's
Yeah.
anything that makes me giggle, I figure is worth showing. With the hope that others will giggle as well as. And Susan, one thing about I just wanted to ask you about, because so curious, you talked about the stacked ones that you were printing on one piece of paper. So you were starting with a full roll, let's say, or much of a roll of 120 film, which I'm not sure, but is about a yard wide, yard long, and then stacking four of them. So you're winding up with more resolution than you would get from an 8x10 negative.
Well, the four stacks are separate files that I've combined, but another bizarre chance thing is that an 11x17 flatbed scanner scans almost exactly a half of a roll of medium format film. So I would scan one end, flip it, pivot it, and scan the other end. And then I would splice together in Photoshop. So the initial file is, was more than a gig. And then I would, select what portion I wanted. And as I showed you a few examples, the whole thing was good. So, but that was not very common. Usually I'd be selecting a portion of this really long thing.
This is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I want to thank you so much for participating in this and I suppose we really do need to give a shout out to the Soho Photo Gallery, the Soho Photo Foundation, because if it weren't for them, we probably never would have met. And I never would have gotten to see so much of your work over these years. So thank you so much.
Sure.
Naph, you there?
I'm here and live.
There we go. So everybody, Naphtali Visser, I met first, I guess, about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more than that. And I don't know, it was like I always knew him from the first few minutes we met. And we've been in conversation about panography for the last, I guess, year or maybe even 2 years. And he's showing me stuff he's doing, and I'm showing him stuff I'm doing. I'm saying, how did you do that? And we're just trading back and forth. And I am so excited that people are going to get to see this today, because you have so, like Susan, but have so inspired me and have so helped me to get that giddy thing going. So you want to take it over?
Yeah, I'll take it over. Thank
Oh, wait a
you.
minute. There's some chats here. I think I'm supposed to
Some
read.
chats.
Thank you to Susan, and Susan saying thank you to everyone, and Al saying such cool work, Susan. Glad to finally have seen it. And from Susanna Muller, so thanks for sharing. This was great and inspirational. And from iPhone, thank you, Susan. There's more. Great, Susan. Love the right brain mythology and trusting the spontaneity of the spirit. Thank you. Awesome photo, Susan. Somebody, that's Lori, and then the Doug, Lori Peck and Doug, you should reserve some. All right, okay, here we go. This is fantastic. Naf, take it over.
Cool. Thank you so much. Thanks for the kind intro, and thank you, Lawrence and ATOA, for inviting me. And thanks to Lawrence for inspiring me to do this work and inspiring me as a photographer in general, and for the friendship for probably over 15 years at this point. Anyway, so I'm a photographer, obviously, and I view tonight's talk as just sort of a snapshot in time of where I am as a photographer. So I'm going to bring you through a couple of things to kind of let you know how I got here. So for the past 15 years or so, the majority of my photography has been at night. And so I'm just going to show you a few of these images to show you how I got to where I am now. So one of the reasons that I love night photography is just because it sort of eradicates the notion of control in photography, right? In photography, we're often told that it's about controlling light or the decisive moment or being in the right place at the right time or having razor sharp images or all those sorts of things. And I kind of like my photography to represent life. And as I see it, in life, we don't have a whole lot of control. So I've really loved night photography for that reason, where in many ways, you're at the mercy of the environment. You're at the mercy of color casts of light. I mean, like how this image is, very sort of orangey. And you can't see that while you're shooting it because your eyes and your brain sort of balance everything out to white. Stuff can come into your picture, stuff that you wanted in your picture can leave your picture, and you end up with a whole bunch of beautiful mistakes, right? And so I'm just going to step you through a couple of these. This was taken in Mumbai in India. I took the same picture 2 years in a row to try to get a better version of it 2 years in a row. And this is an airplane, for example, with its these red and green lights.
I'm not seeing anything.
You're not seeing anything.
No, is anybody seeing? Am I the only one?
Yes, I see them.
Oh, okay.
I'm seeing it.
Coming
Great.
through loud and clear.
Great.
Oh, no, okay. Keep
Okay.
going. Sorry.
So anyway, so all of that kind of, as Lawrence said, brought me to this panoramas for the same reason that I like the night photography. I like these panoramas because you're sort of at the mercy, again, of a lot of random factors that determine what ends up in your picture. But unlike the night pictures where you're sort of at the mercy of the environment, like I said, different lights and things coming into the picture, out of the picture, stuff like that, people bumping your camera, all kinds of stuff. In the case of the panoramas, which I shoot just with the iPhone, I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second, you're at the mercy of sort of what the camera wants to do. All right. So this is my process. This is the most simple thing you could imagine. I start with an iPhone using the built-in camera app in panorama mode. So if you have an iPhone, you can do exactly what I'm doing here. I think every image except one was shot on the 13 Pro, but really any of the iPhones that has the camera app, which is all of them, would work. So I take the camera and basically, sorry for my background here, but I move it in some prescribed and some very random motions. I've gotten through tons of practice good at knowing, the types of motions to use. And basically I just move it until the camera says, like, I don't have any idea what the hell you're doing, right? So the Panorama app is designed, as Lawrence mentioned earlier, to sort of take, a very controlled, wide, super wide angle picture. So you can take a picture of the Grand Canyon or something like that. But I, as you'll see in a minute, am doing something slightly different with it. So that's it. I take the picture and then I use Lightroom and I crop it and I make some color and contrast adjustments because contrast on the iPhone is kind of horrible, especially in the Panorama app. But that's it. That's it. So you'll notice that these images are decidedly not documentary images in any way, but I sort of took, a documentarian's approach to editing, right? So I'm not doing any cloning one picture to another, not combining multiple images, HDR, compositing, like stretching of anything, any sort of AI at all. So really just cropping and color adjustments. So I'm going to start the slideshow here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the pictures, and here we go. This is just in a forest, or a forest of sorts in Western Mass. And as I'm showing you these, I mean, you'll probably notice an initial sort of jump as you see them, but I would encourage you to look at all corners of the images, because there's a lot hidden in a lot of these images. And of course, you're welcome. If while I'm talking, I can't see the chat actually, but at the end, feel free to ask me any details you want about these. This is just on my street here, and I live in Boston. I'm just going to give you a few seconds with each one so you can explore, as I was mentioning. As I was playing with the slideshow, I was thinking some of these images look a little surreal. Just, I'm no art historian, that's for sure, but that was my, word, and having just seen the Dali exhibit here at the Boston MFA. So I did a little Googling and said, is surreal photography a thing? And it turns out it is. But almost all of the examples of that I could find were, for example, there was like a piano in a lake, right? But those were combinations of negatives, usually done in the dark room, or there were lots of, headless bodies and stuff like that, also using dark room tricks, stuff like that. So again, just to reiterate, these are all single images. This is the lovely, ugly Prudential Tower in Boston, taken from a hotel room. Also a lovely street in Boston. And as you can see at the top of the images, you have somebody who's upside down. So here you have both, what I could see looking forward, but also what was behind me at the time and upside down.
I adore this one.
It adores you too, Lawrence. This is from our lovely subway built during the Renaissance.
Is that Park Street?
That is correct, sir, yes. It's my daughter at a store here in Boston. So again, you see that, there's different, some of this is like highly controlled, that I've gotten really good at duplicating some of the sort of effects. But I'd say probably still 70% of it is happy accidents. This is my daughter in her "no paparazzi please" pose. Again, all single images here. So you can see here, this is a mirror image. Again, one single exposure, but you can see in the top this little Ralph Lauren polo symbol, and you see it also in the bottom left, top right and the bottom left. It's my homage to Escher. This is at the Fogg Art Museum at Harvard. I just had to include Harvard in my talk, so you'd think I was smart. This is well, this is an airplane in case you've never been on an airplane before. And here you can see again, I've got about 4 or 5 rows ahead of me, and in the top, I'm pointing to my screen as if you can see that. I've got about 4 or 5 rows behind me as well, and my very fancy red shoes, which is the most important part.
I have to say how is it that the person in the very top is right side up, or am I just
No,
seeing
they're
it?
not. They're upside down. This is yeah, you're seeing you can see in this top right the person's head and then their shirt.
But directly next to the shirt, the t-shirt being the EV, I think it says, or something like that. Isn't there a person that looks like they're a lady that looks like she's upside down wearing a black top,
She is upside down, yes.
but she looks like she's right side up?
Nope.
Okay, very
Whatever
good.
you're seeing is an illusion.
Okay, very
This is the Manhattan Bridge. So here you've got from the side of the bridge that I was on, you've got the first half of the bridge, and then I've rotated the camera and taken that first half of the bridge again. So this again, it's a sort of a mirror image. This top part of the image is a mirror of this bottom part of the image, plus some random distortion.
Thank you for explaining that, because when I saw this image last time and I asked you how you did it, you told me and I didn't get it, but now I did.
And unlike Susan, nobody other than a couple of my buddies have seen any of these pictures. These have never really seen the light of day. So this is one of my favorites, A, because it's my daughter, but B, because, the night photography often allows you to sort of elongate time. We have these long exposures and you have car lights and so forth. This sort of captures, 2 distinct, discrete points in time in one image. So you can see she's laying down on the bottom and standing up at the top.
It just makes me laugh.
It's funny, right? I mean, it's funny, yeah. So I have probably 20 of these of various sorts. You saw a lot of them, Lawrence. Funny story is I used to have fairly severe vertigo, and sometimes these pictures are hard for me to look at, but this is just a new little public garden space at MIT, on top of the Google building in Kendall Square near MIT, with my very lovely wife. Again at the Harvard Art Museum. Oops, so sorry. Again, our Renaissance era subway.
I'm just chuckling and chuckling and chuckling over here. Thank you. Love it. I have to say something about laughter that I think is so important to know about laughter is what Milton Berle said about laughter. He said, laughter is an instant vacation.
Indeed. I think I'm going to try to sell this picture to the town of Brookline so they can include it in their yearly calendar. You know, they usually have the firefighters with their shirts off, but maybe they want this picture also. This is just at a kind of a street festival here in Boston. You know, again, playing with time and space and all those other neat things. The same cup of coffee times 4, all for one low price of $6.99 for a cup of Starbucks. I see. Yes.
We when I was you were showing me these things before, last week I guess it was, we were both trying to figure out how you did that. How that guy who seems like he's in the picture behind is also in the picture in the front. And I think we figured out that it's you holding the camera, but it's certainly the juxtaposition is so perfect that it looks like, yeah, it looks like he's pushing his hands through the train.
Mhm. I see a few people looking at these images like they're trying to find the meaning of life in them. So that's very flattering. This is just what I feel like most days. So, taken at a beach here near Boston, you see the Boston skyline in the background. This appears that you could have taken it with just a super wide angle lens. But what's neat about it is that the green space that you see on the right is actually not directly across from this building that you see on the left. It's actually further down the tracks. For all you New Yorkers out there and other meat lovers, this I took while I was visiting Lawrence just a couple months ago.
$30 a sandwich.
$30 a sandwich, underpriced. So my daughter loves the carousel. It's one of her favorite
You
things.
have to talk about how you made this, because this is so stunning.
Yeah, I mean, I've done dozens or hundreds of these. This is actually the most simple technique. So it's basically just I take the phone and leave it stationary vertically. There's like a railing sort of around the carousel. I just leave it there as the carousel is moving. So there's no, I leave the camera as still as possible, and basically the camera, the software, the AI of the, of the camera software, whatever you want to call it, basically tries to make sense of it, and that's how it flattens it. So that's it. And then just one more, because what's more joyous than my baby? Times 2. I only have one, but there's 2 of her. So there we go.
Thank you, thank you, thank
Pleasure.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
My gosh, so great. I so enjoyed that. I gotta tell you. Let's see if I know there's at least one chat in here. Okay, let's see. The Edge of the Flat Earth. That was the umbrella one, and that's from Jesse, and then from Neri, New Perspectives on Day-to-Day Objects. Yeah. Thank you, Naf, from iPhone, and Doug, yeah, and Verandana is Naphtali, so cool. Okay, very good. I'm stumbling over my tongue, and here's more that's coming in. Laurie Peck says fun. I I really owe you a lot for what I'm going to show, and just so you know, we know the timing. I've set this up knowing that we would probably go late. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share my screen, and I'm showing you it's set up for 4 seconds a piece, or is it 3.5 seconds a piece? I forget what I decided to go on, and where is it? Oh, there we go. Share screen, and go. What happened? Okay. Okay. That's not what I want. Okay, let me go back here. Zoom share. There we go. All right, you see?
Yep.
Okay, and but that should be in full screen.
Just hit the play button.
Yeah, okay. Bye-bye. There's the play button.
Top. Top to the right a little bit. No, more left.
More left. Oh, you're seeing my pointer. You share.
3 more buttons.
Keep going.
There you go.
There.
That one? The one that says stop? Okay.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, that's not it.
The one that says play.
In the top of Keynote, you might be hovering your mouse over the Zoom bar.
Yeah, that's what's happening.
You gotta drag that Zoom bar out of the way, and then you'll see the play.
Oh, gotcha. And where can I draw it? How about that?
Or you can click on the 3 dots next to the Zoom bar and hit
about-
slide hide.
3 dots. There we go.
Should say like hide floating bar or something.
Meeting. No. Are you seeing it here? Video panel. Let's see. No, still not there. Okay, let's see if we go there.
You can also just do Command Alt P, which will start your slideshow.
Command.
Oh, P.
Yeah, Command Option P.
Yep.
There we go.
There you go.
Okay, it's about 3 seconds a slide. It's in chronological order from the time I started taking them. That first one was my first. Okay, I'm going to start doing this. Let's see. And I did, I don't know how many that first day. This one, I have to stop for a second just because this one, as soon as I saw this, oops, as soon as I saw this, I was reminded of at the Woodstock photography collective, whatever it's called, the gallery up there. They had a show 10, 20 years ago of alternate framings. And one of the framings was on the floor, where the image was on the floor, but there were triangular things that made it rise up and then back down, very much like that one. Here we have 2 suns. I've got bunches of them like that. This is from looking at the top of the car. Many of these were taken from moving vehicles, subway most commonly.
Yes,
This is Salvador Charlie. Is one of my faves. Unlike Naf, once I take a picture and I've chosen an image that it's going to be one I want to going to use, I then am putting it through something else. Most commonly Snapseed. As a matter of fact, all of these were in Snapseed at one point or another. And with some of them, especially the earlier ones, I was also using another app first before it went into the Snapseed. And that was called, I forgot. I say, I looked it up and well, if somebody wants to ask me, I'll look for it again in a minute. As you can see, this one, of course, is one person. This is just one shopping cart. That's, you can figure it out from here. So what I'm doing primarily when I'm in Snapseed is really what Naf was talking about using Lightroom for, is bumping up the contrast. So that first one was about 2 years ago, I think. And this is, I think, the last one. Yes. And that's what I got for you. I really, really, really want to thank you all. Whoops. Shall I let this go while we're talking, or who wants to gab?
Well, thanks, Lawrence. Enjoyed seeing your work.
Thank you. Let me see. I want to get back to.
Stop share. Is that what you want?
That's what I want to do. Well, this one was one that just fell into the stack and I loved it. Oh, and this one with the broken bridge, I just did stop share. Okay, stop share. There we go. Voila. Okay, now back to Zoom. All right. Okay, fabulous. Susan, thank you so much for the inspiration. You have truly made everything I thought about your work be bigger than what I thought about your work. And I just, I love it even more now than I have all these years since you first inspired me to do such things. And Naf, same thing with you. It's the generosity that you have in all of your life toward everybody that I've seen you meet, and things you've done, and the work you just shared. It's a big deal. And I truly believe that the number one job of artists is not necessarily to make art as it is to show art, which is to say that we are all artists. And I truly, truly believe that, and we know it to be true. I've spoken on this subject in front of neurosurgeons and such that have agreed with me that the act of looking at a piece of art makes your brain wire up to a higher degree. It doesn't matter if the work is good or bad. It doesn't matter if you like it or you don't like it. Just the idea of looking at the work and letting it do what it does to you. We've seen it. We've had studies on it. We've done probes of the brain. It lights up the brain with new connections that aren't there before you look at the work, because of what the brain has to do to interpret the work, again, whether it's good or bad.
Thank you, Lawrence.
We got some chats here, and I think I'm supposed to read these things. Okay, let's see, I'll start from, let's see. Oh, if you want to get in touch with Naf, he's got his things in here, and I think, Susan, your stuff was already in the top of the list. Okay, Andy Morris says she's going to have her iPhone students try. I think that was Naf's technique. Yep, thanks to Naf. From AAL, Susan Muller, very cool. Boston Strong. And let's see, Lori Peck again. What a treat! Thanks. Thank you, Lawrence from AAL. Veridania. I can't read that so well. My eyes are hurting me. Thank you to me. Thank you to me from iPhone. Susanna Muller, great stuff. All thanks for a cool show. And Veridana, amazing guys. Thanks for sharing your brilliant work. So true about you're talking about the brain. Nice presentation. See you all from iPhone. And Doug Shear, new technology always triggers artists into new creativity. That is true. That is so true. How much did just the invention of putting pre-colored paste into a tube and making it possible so that artists didn't have to grind stones to make their pigments or grind up something and mix it with something and use a lot of eggs. The technology does not take away the artistry. It adds capability to the artistry. And something I've talked about here before, and I'll just end with this, is that I don't believe I'm using any AI. I mean, I've gone out of my way to not touch AI, not because I don't believe in it or I think it's evil or any of those other things, but just because it seems, at some point, I'm sure I'm going to jump into it, but it seems like there's a purity to not using whatever AI is. Now, with that said, you could perhaps say that Snapseed or Photoshop are AI tools. I don't know. I mean, we didn't use the word AI, and Snapseed's been around for 10, 12 years, and Photoshop has been around for 20 or 30. I still have my original version of Photoshop 3 and 4. These tools, everything I do with these apps is really so that I can do the things that I used to do in the darkroom. Taking film and twisting it and putting it in the enlarger, for example. And some of the things that Susan was talking about as well, just taking stuff and throwing it onto a scanner, and that becomes the picture. Whatever it might be, and whatever tool we pick up, as long as you are putting yourself in a place that makes it interesting to you, that is fun for you, then guess what? You're making art. That's what I believe. So there, and whether it's good or bad, whether people like it or not, your job is to show it. Now that's especially for you right now. Susan, keep on. And I see we have one more thing in the chat. What is it? Does it say good night? Photoshop was Varney Scan way back when. You were Betty. Yes. Okay. Yes. I mean, after all, the original Photoshop came out of a bitmap displayer. Was the two brothers, I forget their names now, where one was on the couch smoking pot all day and the other one was out working, and the one out working says, "I'm tired of supporting you, create a bitmap program for me." And that was the core of Photoshop for much of its life. I don't think that's part of it anymore, but that was the core of it all the time, was that one bitmap program added to it. Let's do it color. How about JPEGs instead of bitmap, et cetera, it kept going on. It's play that brings us to life.
Before Maria comes back to thank everyone, I want to mention, since we weren't able to put the opening card up in the beginning, that this production and broadcast is copyrighted by Artist Talk on Art, 2024, all rights reserved. And now, Maria.
Okay, thank you so much for this amazing panel we had today. Thanks, Lawrence. Thanks, Naphtali. Thanks, Susan. I think your work all inspired how to expand our vision on how to see things. Thank you so much to the board, to the volunteers, to all the people that work in TOA. And I will see you. Will see us again next Monday, 28 at 7 p.m. again. And the panel will be what does age have to do with it? So thank you so much. Have a wonderful night and blessings. All the best.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.